Okay, so this is the final lecture from Chapter 1. We're talking about business ethics. So, what are business ethics? The dictionary defines business ethics as a standard of conduct, or moral behavior. Um, Business ethics, a company's attitude and conduct towards its employees, customers, community, stockholders. I.e., the firm's stakeholders. I mentioned previously that they we also this also now includes the environment, um, and also I think employees see with a lot of companies seem to have been left out in the cold. Examples of this are extreme efforts by large corporations to avoid paying benefits. Many companies, the Walmart, Amazon, to mention a couple that have very large part-time workforces. And the reason they have large part-time workforces is to avoid paying benefits. Uh, but they're not alone. This is a very common practice of our governments. Uh, the many government employees now are part-time employees. And the whole purpose here is to reduce costs and reduce the benefits that they have to pay to employees. Corporate governance. Yeah. Set of rules that a firm follows when it's operating its business. You know, the as a result of Sarbanes-Oxley in 2002, the firms have substantially revised these policies and practices, at least outwardly. Um, so, good corporate governance generally uh, generates higher returns to stockholders. Um, it's interesting that um, that we do find so many companies that choose to ignore this with regard to their employees because generally companies we see that companies with that do treat their provide their employees with incentives and and so forth tend to perform better. So there's a lot of evidence uh, with regard to good corporate governance and the profits that arise from it. So it's counterintuitive that some firms choose to ignore this. So we see firms, um, you know, on a fairly regular basis, they get in trouble, and they're fined by the various agencies of government and so forth for um, uh, unethical practices and so forth. Forms of business in other countries. So foreign firms uh, generally have a higher concentration of ownership, fewer owners than do U.S. firms. So the stock ownership isn't as diverse. But we also find that foreign firms tend to be a little riskier than, or depend anywhere from a little to a lot riskier than U.S. corporations, and this riskier firms tend to have fewer owners. So, foreign uh, firms have much different relationships with financial institutions than do U.S. firms. Um, this is another regulatory issue with regard to U.S. Uh, and other countries. The Federal Reserve imposes very strict um, reserve requirements on U.S. banks, and as a result, U.S. banks um, are unable to competitively uh, offer lending to to successful corporations. They can go into the capital markets, whether that be the debt or the equity markets, and borrow money more effectively, especially the debt markets. So, five reasons firms go international. So, seek new markets, seek raw materials, seek new technology, seek production efficiency, avoid political and regulatory hurdles. So the they, for example, avoiding tariffs. If you're a company is importing goods into another country and um, it can be seen as detrimental to a business in that country. However, if the company moves to the country and starts employing citizens of the country and so forth, that can avoid these political hurdles. But there are also other risks associated with that. We've seen over time where uh, businesses were nationalized by foreign countries. So, factors that distinguish domestic and foreign firms or multinational firms. Um, Multinational firms have to deal with currency risk, different currency denominations, um, economic and legal ramifications, language differences, cultural differences, roles of governments. In some countries, what we would consider bribery is considered common practice. For example, political risk, that would be nationalization would be at the top of that list. So this is the end of the chapter 1 lecture.